James Abbott McNeill Whistler was born on July 11, 1834, in Lowell, Massachusetts, into a family of some distinction. His father, George Washington Whistler, was a prominent civil engineer, while his mother, Anna Matilda McNeill, came from a wealthy and cultured Southern family in Wilmington, North Carolina. Whistler's parents provided a nurturing and intellectually stimulating environment, which had a significant influence on his artistic development. Whistler's father was known for his work on the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, one of the oldest railroads in the United States, and his expertise later took him to Russia, where he was hired to oversee the construction of a railroad from St. Petersburg to Moscow. Consequently, in 1843, the Whistler family moved to St. Petersburg, Russia, where young James spent several formative years. It was here that he first encountered art in a serious manner, receiving drawing lessons from the noted Russian artist Alexander Ivanov. These early experiences exposed him to a diverse range of artistic influences, which would later shape his unique style. In 1849, Whistler's father passed away from cholera, prompting the family to return to the United States. They settled in Pomfret, Connecticut, where Whistler attended Christ Church Hall School. Despite his interest in art, Whistler was initially encouraged to follow in his father's footsteps and pursue a career in engineering. In 1851, Whistler enrolled at the United States Military Academy at West Point. His time at West Point was marked by both academic and disciplinary challenges. While he demonstrated talent in drawing, excelling in the Academy's drawing classes, his rebellious nature and poor academic performance led to frequent conflicts with the faculty. One of his famous quips during this period, when he was reprimanded for not knowing the specific gravity of a material, was, "Had silicon been a gas, I would have been a major general." In 1854, after 3 years at West Point, Whistler was dismissed due to his poor grades and lack of discipline. This setback marked a turning point in his life, as he decided to fully commit to his passion for art. He took a job with the U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey as a draftsman, where he learned the technique of etching, a skill that would become a significant aspect of his later work. However, the rigidity of the job did not suit Whistler's temperament, and he soon resigned to pursue a more creative and independent path. In 1855, Whistler moved to Paris, which was then the epicenter of the art world. He enrolled at the École Impériale and later studied under Charles Gleyre, a Swiss painter known for his classical and academic style. During his time in Paris, Whistler became acquainted with the works of the old masters, particularly Diego Velázquez, as well as contemporary artists such as Gustave Courbet, who were challenging traditional artistic conventions. Whistler's early works in Paris were heavily influenced by the realist movement, which emphasized the depiction of everyday life in a naturalistic manner. His first major work, At the Piano, 1858-59, which depicted his sister and niece in a domestic setting, was exhibited at the Royal Academy in London in 1860. The painting was well received, marking Whistler's entry into the European art scene. During the 1860s, Whistler's style began to evolve as he became increasingly interested in Japonism, the influence of Japanese art on Western culture. The opening of Japan to the West in the mid-19th century led to a fascination with Japanese aesthetics, particularly its emphasis on simplicity, asymmetry, and the use of empty space. Whistler's exposure to Japanese prints and decorative arts had a profound impact on his work, leading him to develop a more refined and harmonious style. One of the earliest examples of this influence is Symphony in White, No. 1, The White Girl, 1862, a portrait of his mistress and model Joanna Heffernan. The painting, which depicts Heffernan in a white dress against a white background, was rejected by the Royal Academy but was later exhibited at the Salon des Refuses in Paris, where it garnered significant attention. The work marked a departure from the more detailed and realistic style of his earlier works, showcasing his growing interest in tonal harmony and the subtle interplay of light and color. Whistler's fascination with musical analogies also began to manifest during this period. He started to title his paintings using musical terms such as symphony, nocturne, and arrangement, emphasizing the idea that his work should be appreciated for its aesthetic qualities rather than for its narrative content. This approach reflected his belief in the art for art's sake philosophy, which argued that art should be valued for its beauty and form, independent of any moral or didactic purpose. In 1859, Whistler moved to London, where he would spend the rest of his life. London, with its bustling art scene and vibrant cultural life, provided Whistler with new opportunities and challenges. He quickly established himself as a prominent figure in the city's artistic circles, forming friendships with influential artists and writers, including Dante Gabriel Rossetti, Algernon Charles Swinburne, and John Ruskin. During the 1870s, Whistler began to focus on a series of works that he called Nocturnes, which depicted urban scenes at twilight or night. These paintings, characterized by their muted color palette and atmospheric effects, were a significant departure from the more detailed and realistic works of his earlier career. Instead of focusing on the specific details of the scene, Whistler sought to capture the mood and essence of the moment, using delicate brushwork and subtle tonal variations to create a sense of harmony and tranquility. One of the most famous of these works is Nocturne in Black and Gold, The Falling Rocket, 1875, which depicts a fireworks display over the Thames River. The painting's abstract, almost minimalist composition was groundbreaking for its time and is now considered one of Whistler's masterpieces. However, it was also the subject of one of the most notorious controversies in Whistler's career. In 1877, John Ruskin, the leading art critic of the time, published a scathing review of Nocturne in Black and Gold, The Falling Rocket, accusing Whistler of flinging a pot of paint in the public's face. Offended by this attack on his work, Whistler decided to sue Ruskin for libel. The trial, which took place in 1878, was a highly publicized event and a turning point in Whistler's career. During the trial, Whistler defended his artistic philosophy, arguing that the value of his work lay in its aesthetic qualities rather than in its subject matter or the time spent on its creation. When asked how he could justify charging 200 guineas for a painting that took only 2 days to complete, Whistler famously replied that the fee was not for the 2 days' work, but for the knowledge he had gained over a lifetime. Although Whistler won the case, he was awarded only a farthing in damages, and the legal costs of the trial left him bankrupt. However, the trial brought significant attention to Whistler and his work, solidifying his reputation as a leading figure in the art for art's sake movement. This philosophy, which emphasized the importance of beauty and form in art, independent of any moral or narrative content, would become a central tenet of modernist aesthetics. In the aftermath of the Ruskin trial, Whistler continued to explore the idea of aesthetic harmony in his work. One of the most famous examples of this pursuit is the Peacock Room, 1876-77, a lavish interior decoration project that Whistler undertook for the London home of the shipping magnate Frederick Leyland. The Peacock Room was originally designed by the architect Thomas Jekyll, but Whistler took over the project after Jekyll fell ill. Whistler transformed the room into a stunning work of art, covering the walls with intricate patterns of gold and blue, and incorporating peacock motifs throughout the space. The centerpiece of the room was Whistler's painting The Princess from the Land of Porcelain, which was displayed above the fireplace. Despite the room's beauty, the project led to a falling out between Whistler and Leyland, who was unhappy with the cost and the extent of the changes Whistler had made. The dispute culminated in Whistler's addition of 2 fighting peacocks on one wall, which he called Art and Money, or The Story of the Room. The room is now considered one of Whistler's greatest achievements and a masterpiece of interior design. The financial difficulties that followed the Ruskin trial forced Whistler to declare bankruptcy in 1879. Despite his critical success, Whistler struggled to find buyers for his work, and his extravagant lifestyle left him constantly in debt. In an effort to raise funds, he embarked on a speaking tour, delivering a lecture titled 10 O'Clock in 1885. In this lecture, Whistler articulated his artistic philosophy, emphasizing the importance of beauty and form over narrative content. He argued that art should be appreciated for its own sake, rather than as a means of conveying a moral or social message. The The lecture was well received and helped to reinforce Whistler's reputation as a leading figure in the aesthetic movement. In the final decades of his life, Whistler continued to produce a significant body of work, including portraits, landscapes, and etchings. He also published The Gentle Art of Making Enemies, 1890, a collection of his letters and writings, which showcased his wit and combative personality. Whistler's work was increasingly recognized and celebrated during his later years. In 1892, he held a major retrospective exhibition at the Goupil Gallery in London, which was a critical and commercial success. He was also awarded the Cross of the Legion of Honor in France and was elected president of the Royal Society of British Artists, though he resigned after a brief and contentious tenure. Whistler's health began to decline in the early 20th century, and he spent much of his final years in relative seclusion. He passed away on July 17, 1903, in London at the age of 69. Despite the financial struggles and controversies that marked his career, Whistler left behind a remarkable legacy, influencing generations of artists and contributing to the development of modern art. James McNeill Whistler's legacy as an artist is profound and far-reaching. His work challenged the conventions of his time, pushing the boundaries of what art could be and how it should be perceived. His emphasis on aesthetic harmony, tonal subtlety, and the idea of art for art's sake laid the groundwork for many of the developments in modern art that followed. Whistler's influence can be seen in the work of numerous artists, including the American Impressionists and the members of the aesthetic movement. His innovative use of color, composition, and texture also paved the way for the abstraction and minimalism of the 20th century. Today, Whistler is recognized as one of the most important artists of his time, with his works held in major museums and collections around the world. The Peacock Room, now housed at the Freer Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., remains one of the most celebrated examples of Whistler's genius, showcasing his ability to create a total work of art that harmonizes color, form, and space. His Nocturnes, with their ethereal beauty and atmospheric effects, continue to captivate viewers and are regarded as masterpieces of 19th century art. Whistler's life and work also serve as a testament to the importance of artistic integrity and the pursuit of beauty. His unwavering commitment to his vision, despite financial difficulties and public criticism, is a powerful reminder of the challenges and rewards of a life dedicated to art. In conclusion, James McNeill Whistler was not only a painter of extraordinary talent, but also a visionary who reshaped the way we think about art. His contributions to the development of modernism, his influence on subsequent generations of artists, and his enduring legacy make him one of the most significant figures in the history of art. Whistler's work continues to inspire and resonate with audiences today, a testament to the timelessness of his vision and the power of his artistic achievements.